Good morning, everyone. It's Agent of Doubt, and couldn't sleep that well, so I started looking at my phone, and somebody, Will, he sent me a video. He said, "Hey, sir, I did a video. If you have any thoughts on it, I'd like to hear them." And his video is called "The Santa Claus Effect." And I think that it's very fortuitous for Will. Link in the description box to his video, and his channel name is Mr. Will Thinks About. And yeah, I think it's very fortuitous that he put the video before my eyes, because there is a context to talking about Santa Claus in the great debate community here on YouTube that I feel like I have a perspective that will be helpful for this. And yeah, first of all, good on Will for even putting his video in front of my face, because if you have the question of me, did you see my video? ... fill in the blank. No, I didn't, because I'm subscribed to like 1,000 different people, and randomly I just select a few videos every day. I probably watch like an hour of YouTube videos every day, and you might not be one of them, even if I'm subscribed to you. So if you in particular wanted me to watch your video, please send it to me personally. If there's something about my experience or my perspective that you want added, that's the way to do it, because no, I didn't see your video. By default. So, Will puts out the Santa Claus effect as being things where everybody knows that something is false, but everyone's going along with it in order to, I guess, have a better effect on society, for the betterment of children, for the betterment of society. Everyone goes along with it, even though they know everybody else knows that it's false too. The context that is missing from Will's video, being that he is a smaller YouTuber and newer to this conversation, is that around 8 years ago here on YouTube, there was a user named Shock of God who started with Christian apologetics. And around 5 years ago, he was at his peak. And one of his greatest arguments for the existence of God and for the moral decay of atheists was that Santa Claus was something that was leading people away from belief in Jesus Christ. And it was a bad example for people, and that Santa Claus, the story and the myth in Christian culture, had become so pervasive that most Christians were not really understanding that Christmas was about Christ and not Santa. That was his argument. Now, he had a whole bunch of atheists and pagans respond to him that most of the celebrations that Christians had around that time of year were borrowed from pagans, and that it was actually Christians who had culturally appropriated most of the festivities. Festivities, that's a great word to use there, because it's festus, or all sorts of holidays that Christianity is borrowed from. Anyway, without understanding that this conversation has already happened, and it was called Santa Syndrome by Shock of God. So much so that we're all tired of hearing about Santa syndrome. The effect of the Santa Claus story on the human psyche is something that you wouldn't know had already been explored quite thoroughly, and not just the way that Shock of God had put out, but yeah, it's got parallels with the Emperor's New Clothes. In that there's that emperor who's naked and thinks that only people who are stupid can't see the clothes, and you know, he thinks, well, if everybody else thinks that he can't see his clothes, then they'll think that he's stupid, and then everybody else thinks that if they call out, hey, the truth is he's got no clothes on, then they'll seem stupid, and so there's this herd mentality to it. And so there's parallels in that story as well. But the way that Mr. Will thinks about, has put forth the Santa Claus effect as his new thought. The Santa Claus effect is just when people agree to go along with a falsehood for the betterment of their community. In a nutshell. So he gave a couple examples, one of which being how there are different punishments in school for different things, which I didn't really think that it was helpful to his main point. But the one where sports is looked at as something that's sacred, and that everyone kind of turns a blind eye to the fact that most likely everyone in professional sports is cheating with substances. I think that that's a pretty good one. A pretty good example of people agreeing to perpetuate a falsehood for the betterment of children, because you don't want children to get into life-threatening substances, right? So, I would say if I were to respond with my own example, it would be that as a counselor in general, not just an addiction counselor, but like in general psychotherapy, you will come across this idea that if you fuck up once, your life is ruined forever. And there's two different places where I've seen this the most. Number one is with divorce. If somebody gets a divorce, many times, especially culturally here in America, if they come from a Christian background, they think that their life is ruined. You're never supposed to get a divorce, and they're tainted. They think that if they show up to a wedding for a second time in their life, that they're not allowed to wear the same color. Like a bride can't wear white to her second wedding because she's tainted, so she has to wear an off color. You know, where everybody knows that mistakes happen, and that people can grow apart from each other, and that it's completely fine to decide that you don't want to live with someone in your life anymore. You can decide these things for yourself. You can get a divorce. It's okay, right? Everyone knows this, but there's this stigma that everyone seems to feel it's okay to perpetuate in that. But also, the second thing that I see a lot in people is thinking that if they fail at any level of education, they're not going to succeed at the next level, and they're just on a trajectory for failure as soon as they fail once, right? And I think it's horrible that we start with elementary school for kids. whatever that means in your neck of the woods. I realize that I'm responding in an international sense here, so it could be primary school. If you don't get good grades, then if you don't get good marks, then you're not going to get into the advanced placement courses in your middle school or your prep school or whatever it is, junior high, whatever they call it in your neck of the woods, right? So if you don't get into the advanced placement courses, then you're not going to get into the advanced placement courses in high school. And if you don't get into the advanced placement courses there, you're not going to be able to get out of the 4 point scale. That if you get an A, it's 4 points. A B is 3 points. A C is 2 points, and this average becomes your GPA of all your classes. And there are so many people working so hard to get straight A's and have that 4.0 GPA that if you can't look better than them, that you're not going to succeed in life because you're not getting to get into the college that you want. So you have to have an advanced placement course where the scale is shifted to an A equals 5 points, right? Because that'll bring your GPA up to like 4.1, right? And you need that in order to succeed in life. So you have to start at as early as 10 years old, knowing that any mistake that you make could affect your chances of getting into the university that is prestigious that you need to have in your life. You need to have that label on your resume. You need to have that, the experience. And if you don't get that, then you are going to be a failure. You might as well just hang it up. Kill yourself, because your life's going to suck. And you're going to have to look at the guys that did succeed and know that you didn't succeed because you didn't spend that extra hour studying calculus, when you were 15. No, that's not the way that the world actually works, but that this is a mindset that is perpetuated by many Americans. And I imagine many people across the world just as well. But I can tell you that I have counseled many people who have this mindset, and it comes as a relief to them for me to, let them, I guess, think about in the behind the stage, behind the curtain access kind of area of their mind, and just it's such a relief to realize, everybody else also knows that if you fuck up, if you fail at one stage, you can rebound from that you can fix it, and you have to be able to let yourself feel that, and you can't just use the pressure of everybody else to determine how you're going to be feeling about yourself. And most people have a failure in their life that they have rebounded from. People will put up a great front. They will put lipstick on a pig. They will also turn that pig into a prize stallion sometimes. I'll give an example from my life. I fucked up royally in high school to the point where I didn't even graduate from the high school that I started in because I didn't want the other students to see that I was having to take a few extra courses just to graduate. And that actually had me on a trajectory in my mind for failure from the get-go, right? So when I got my diploma, which was a regular high school diploma, but it just took me a little bit extra to get, I joined the Army. And that also has a stigma to it where people think that if you do that, you are on a trajectory for just a little bit of success in life, but not much, right? So while I was in the Army, I was using it as a stepping stone to get out of my hometown and see the world a little bit and actually go to college. And I know how pervasive this is for people to think that that's not going to be the path to success, because when I went to college later, I used the GI Bill, which is basically payment for 4 years of college, and I used every bit of it that I could. Like every month, I was getting a payment for staying enrolled in college at a full time level. And I took the maximum benefit that you can possibly achieve with this benefit that you get from being a veteran in military service. And so when I was done with it, I counted up how much money I had put into it while I was serving in the military. And that was $100 every month for 12 months. Right? So $1,200. $1,200 is how much I paid into that system. And that system paid out $1,200 or more to me. At the end, it was something like $1,400, right? Every month for 4 years. So I got 48 times the benefit from what I put in. And I was like, that's not sound financially for the government to be doing this. You know, how is it that they come up with all this money? And the answer to that is many people pay into the system just for the opportunity to be able to draw on it later, and then they never draw on it because they're caught in this mindset of, oh well, I joined the Army, I've ruined my life. You know, I might as well just become a career soldier, or, you know, use the trade that the Army taught me to get a job on the outside, just doing menial work or whatever trade the Army taught me. Maybe I'm going to be an auto mechanic or something, but I'm never going to, you know, go to college because I'm just not that kind of person. And I've already screwed up my life with my resume. You know, there's a big gap of my life that was spent in the military that wasn't spent working on my career, you know. Also, I think when people have a gap in their work history, you know, where they've been unemployed for a very long time, and they think that that's going to look bad to a new employer. You know, they feel like they've failed for a little while, so now for the rest of their life, their employers are going to look at that as failure, failure, failure. They weren't staying gainfully employed their entire life. I can tell you that is also false. You know, it is easier to get a job once you have a job. That is true, and employers do like to get employees from other companies rather than get employees that are unemployed. So sometimes when you have that long stint of unemployment, it might be better for you to get a job that you don't want to be able to apply to a job that you do want. Yes, but having that in your life is not a death sentence. And many people think that it is. And it's because we have this lie that we perpetuate to everyone, you know, that if you have a failure once in your life, you're going to be a failure for the rest of your life. You know? So yeah. I ended up with a degree that I sometimes keep in the shot, but sometimes I have to adjust my camera to show you guys. And I counsel other people on getting, you know, their life in order and getting to a degree and going further than that and having happy careers. And yeah, it's the thing that I deal with the most, that people, especially in their lowest points, are thinking, I fucked my life up so bad that I'm never going to be successful at anything. And really, outside of that Santa Claus effect of people perpetuating that lie, if people really look at all of the different people in their lives that have fucked up, that have actually bounced back from it, they have the evidence right in front of them in their own mind, in their lives. They know all of these people who have overcome adversity, and yet they think, oh well, I fucked up, so I can't achieve anything else. Link in the description box to Will's video. Thank you, Will, for taking the initiative to put your video in front of someone's face, because it worked. And yeah, many people can't even muster up the courage to share their own videos, and that's a shame in and of itself. Everyone go watch Will's video. Consider subscribing to him too, because I think there's some good content that's going to come out of his channel.